Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, one of my favorite seasons of the year is fall, for a few reasons. Delicious food, we get to go hunting, and I get to wear beanies. That is this situation. I love beanies, and you're going to see this a lot more, but let this mark the beginning of fall. It's official. It is beanie season. Now, with that out of the way, we got to talk about this bullet points episode. This bullet points episode is an opinion piece out of Philadelphia, and it is probably one of the weirdest arguments for gun control I've ever heard. It doesn't make sense. The premise is just weird, and I can't even set it up properly. But this author is comparing, or actually correlating, infant mortality to gun violence and saying they're related and that gun violence is going to ruin infant mortality with no infants being hurt by gun violence. It's very, very weird. We're going to dive into it. It's linked in the article description below. But read this because this is a weird one. And let me know what you guys think. So, I'm just going to dive right into it because, like I said, this is bizarre. Infant mortality rates are declining, but gun violence is overtaking that progress. Expert opinion. Okay. So with that immediately off the gate, that would imply that gun violence is impacting that group of people. It's not, but it's just a very weird topic and premise. But let's dive in and let's see what they're actually talking about, okay? There is a disturbing trend in Philadelphia that everyone should be aware of. Even as hard-won progress is being made in reducing our infant mortality rate, which is children who make it to their first-year birthday, the toll of gun violence among the city's children and youth could erase those gains. What does gun violence have to do with infant mortality rate? Nothing. I'm going to keep going because the case is very weak, but this really points to the fact that they'll use anything to get their gun violence point across. Last year, 130 Philadelphia babies died before their first birthday, which is tragic. Half the number of just a decade earlier, so it's going down tremendously. Yet also in 2020, the city lost 127 lives, all under the age of 21, to homicide. That toll has been rising just as infant deaths have been declining. So, infant mortality rate going way down, but they're making the point that gun violence is going way up between 1 to 21-year-olds. You're comparing apples to oranges, and then you're trying to correlate and tie in gun violence and saying that it affects infant mortality, which it doesn't. I think that the point that this author is trying to go after is the fact that they're saving lives on the infant mortality rate, so you have a net gain of lives than you did 10 years ago. And that gun violence is rising, so 20 years later, it's offsetting the gains that you gained, but this is a very weird way to tie in gun control goals into the medical field. This is just bizarre. But one more thing, and then I'm going to show you the actual numbers that they're drawing from, and you can see it doesn't make sense at all there either. Total deaths in children under 21 have remained steady from 2014 until 2020, at fewer than 70 a year. As a city, we haven't moved this needle in 6 years. What has changed is that increasingly the cause of death is not babies being born too early, but teens dying too young. So he's alluding to the gun violence. Now, granted, it's a lot of gang violence, it's a lot of criminal activity, but comparing it to infant mortality is disingenuous and, like I said, weird. Look at the actual numbers that this gun controller is citing here. Now, what I'm showing you on the screen is obviously the year on the left, Philadelphia youth homicides 21 and under in the next column. Then to the right of that is the Philadelphia infant deaths, which is under 1 year. The infant deaths is obviously declining since 2005 because medicine is getting better, prenatal care is getting better. All of these medical options are getting better. The youth homicides 21 and under is actually also declining on a trend line, but it has spiked in 2020, and in 2021 it's at 85. And now here's what's very, very strange, because this author is implying that they are going across the board losing the gains that they're making from the infant mortality rate, because infant mortality is going down. But what's interesting is if you actually do the math, 85 is the average, the mean of every single homicide 21 and under per year since 2005. A 16-year average is 85. So nothing has changed. There has been no increase in catalyst on the long-term trend. There has been a spike in last year, but right now we're right on average in Philadelphia. So now going back to the point of the whole video, why would you correlate Gun violence, which you've deemed, I just call crime, gun violence with infant mortality rate, and in the article title make it sound like guns are impacting infant mortality rate. They're not. What this article should have said is infant mortality rate going down, gun violence going up. There's a 20-year span between. And the reason that I chose this for you guys, this is the depth that they're going to. They will tie completely uncorrelated things together and say they have a direct correlation, which they don't. It's a completely disingenuous argument, and I wanted to bring it to you because this kind of shows two things. Desperation, one, and two, just plain weird. Let me know what you guys think in the comments field below, and I will see you tonight at the 9 p.m. segment. I'm Braden, signing out.